I'd like to begin this video by extending my fondest fuck you to the lovely Miss Jacqueline Glenn for having introduced me to these fuckers in her newest video. I'm upset with Jacqueline because while this discovery has given me a shit ton of new potential response content, it's also completely destroyed my will to live. So, without further ado, let's meet Paul and Morgan in their video, Can Christians Cuss?
I'm wondering. Hey, come on. Bring it back in. Rope it in. What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Jacob.
And this is
The Paul and Morgan Show with Jacob!
Okay, so if you haven't clicked off this response yet, I pity you, because you've clearly put your desire for more God is not good content above your need for continued sanity. At the same time, I thank you for sticking with me in these very troubling times. Back into the breach.
Today's video, it's on cussing. Should Christians say bad words?
Christians in general? Sure, I see no reason why Christians should refrain from using language that's societally deemed to be negatively connotated. As long as you're not using such language with a specific malicious intent of harming other human beings, I don't really see the big deal, and I held this belief even throughout much of my time as a Christian. They're simply words, nothing more.
Should we cuss? Is cussing okay?
Now, while I don't believe that there's any universally justifiable reason for Christians en masse to avoid using such language, I will make one stipulation. If one is going to be incorporating such words into their vocabulary, they should at the very least have the maturity and mental capacity to understand the words themselves. Which I can already safely assume that the three of you most certainly do not, and as such I believe that you three specific Christians should likely refrain from using such language as not to risk damaging your clearly fragile psyches.
Guys, if you're new to our channel, we are making Christian advice videos on life, love, and dating to help you
have hope
And a future.
Jacob, you had a Bible verse, didn't you?
I did.
His nickname is Saint Jacob.
So,
He is practically
Ephesians 4:29 actually says,
Ephesians 4:29.
I would like to yet again apologize for subjecting you to this torment while simultaneously giving you a momentary break from it so that you may renew your willingness to continue, thus giving me a few more of those sweet watch minutes before you inevitably shit yourself trying to tolerate these fuckers.
do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen.
Okay, so based on this verse, Christians are only supposed to speak when it will be specifically beneficial to other people who hear their words. So by this merit, here are a few examples of non-beneficial things that Christians should stop using their words to do. Indoctrinating children. Condemning gay people. Teaching creationism. Denying climate change. Bitching about those damn liberals forcing their equality on people. And finally, sending their thoughts and prayers.
My thing is, when people are in public and, like, we're at Walmart, because that's usually where it happens. Let's just be real here. And people are, just talking to one another, but they're cursing. Wow.
Editing. You should try it.
Big dummy. I could have called you another word.
So that's a great example. I belched out loud. It was very rude. It would have been very easy for Jacob to cuss me out.
If your idea of a situation where it should be very easy for somebody to hurl curse words at you is you burping, you've only further proved my point that you, personally, lack the maturity to justify the use of such language. Also, it may hint towards some potential anger issues.
Why is all that shooey coming out of your throat?
He could have said, "Beep it, Paul." Why did you do that? But instead he said, a more mild, "You big dummy."
Again, I have to say that it all really comes down to personal maturity. It's quite clear in all of these instances that the three of you have put together sentences in your head that utilize curse words, and only out of your own personal immature inability to simply form the words and say them out loud, you censor yourself and then act as if it makes you a better person than somebody who wouldn't do so. So if the thing that matters most is the string of words that leaves your mouth, I have a quick test for you. Which of these two responses to your burp sounds more incendiary and harmful? Paul, you big dummy. Damn it, Paul! Likely you said the second response. Now, how about between these two responses? Damn it, Paul. Paul, you big dummy! Now, unless you're being blatantly dishonest in an attempt to invalidate the point being made, you likely said that between those two responses, the one that did not contain a curse word was the more incendiary or harmful of the two. With that being said, what is the harm of simply speaking the words that you've already so clearly used to initially form sentences in your head? The answer is that there is no harm to it, because no matter what word you say, it's not the word that's harmful, but rather the intention behind it that determines the effect that your words will have.
And it was funny, it's benefiting them because look at the smiles on their faces.
Okay, no, what I was saying was, when we're out in public, I'm a nanny, so I'm strolling along with my little baby nanny in there.
And there goes the third stooge, obtrusively holding an imaginary microphone, again illustrating his stunning lack of maturity.
And say a group of kids, teenagers, thank you, are walking around near us, and they're like cussing towards one another, and like it's just like so rude because I don't want my little kid to hear that. Like I don't want to hear it, and I don't want my little kid who's starting to learn how to talk.
So Morgan's saying,
So, while I would like to respond a bit to Morgan's anecdote, I feel the need to point out the fact that I did not cut Morgan off before the end of her sentence. Rather, whoever edited the video did so by interjecting her husband's explanation of what she was trying to say over top of her saying it herself. Now, I am rather new to this channel, however, from the small bit of their relationship dynamic that I have seen from a few other videos, my best guess would be that the editor of these videos is Paul, and that he felt the need to cut Morgan off and clarify her words in a way that he felt explained them better because it was instead coming from his mouth. Call me crazy or a feminazi or whatever you want if you're so inclined, but that's simply what I personally see happening in this clip. Now back to Morgan's actual point. While it is considered generally disrespectful to curse in front of other people's children, it's not something that's prohibited, and while you may be upset by the fact that your child is exposed to language of that kind, it is then your responsibility as a parent to explain your reasoning to your child, encouraging them to make good decisions, as you have no real way to stop your child from being exposed to things that you personally deem harmful. If you teach your child how to think critically and reason through things rather than teaching them what to think while attempting to restrict outside influence, then they'll be inevitably better equipped to deal with the real world.
it's a poor example for young people. It's just unwholesome. Like that verse said, let no unwholesome talk. It's just not building up. It's not edifying.
Or negativity.
Examine yourselves and think to yourself, am I a negative person based on what comes out of my mouth?
You can be a negative person based on what comes out of your mouth without ever using a single word that society has deemed to be unwholesome, because yet again, it's not what you say, but how you say it that has an impact on the world around you.
Whatever's true, noble, just, pure, right, lovely, meditate on those things.
Coming at it from this angle, like what is the root, what is the heart behind it?
Just focus on virtue.
Here's the sad thing. The sad thing is that you are so close. You are so damn close to coming to the realization all on your own that I've been expounding this whole video, and yet you refuse to let yourselves get there.
You have to be intentional about it. Like one of the things my fiance and I do, we do this thing called 5 things.
Okay, go on.
And I'm like, all right, 5 things. And she's like, okay. She rattles off 5 things that she's thankful for.
Wow.
In the moment.
That's good.
That, babe, we need to start doing that.
Yeah.
All right, 5 things, go. I'm thankful for that Jacob can be in this video.
I'm thankful for this house.
There you go.
I'm thankful for the Paul and Morgan, the Paul and Morgan show.
I'm thankful that that jingle only lasted a few short, painful seconds. Well, I think that keeping track of all the things in your life that you're thankful for on a constant basis is a fantastic way of staying positive in your thought process. It has absolutely nothing to do with the topic of this video.
I will not lie. There are times when I stub my toe, which is literally the worst pain ever.
We're getting real here.
Or I like hit my funny bone and there's nothing funny about it. And I might yell out a word.
And let me guess, it causes nobody harm. Nobody's inconvenienced in the slightest by your exclamation of pain. In fact, it's scientifically proven that yelling helps reduce pain. So in that way, you cursing actually does you some good.
A potty word.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Birdies!
For the most part, I yell out like replacement words that I've come up with. Like, I don't
Like
know.
what?
Fart! Sickle!
To me, that's worse than...
Fart!
Stop it. Get some help.
All right, well, we've established cussing is not part of your normal dialect. But then something crazy happens. You get scared, you get hurt, and you drop a cuss word.
Frustrated.
What about that? Frustrated. From the abundance of the heart,
From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
I'm sorry, was that supposed to have some sort of deep meaning that warranted a satisfied grunt? Because I personally didn't get that vibe from it.
So yeah, my
So-
heart, when I'm in pain, my heart is obviously like, crap!
Yeah,
Shameful.
I am not above
None
an
of
occasional
us
cuss
are
word.
above.
Well,
But I also
No.
do believe that it is not unrealistic to be perfect in that area.
wow.
Wow, indeed, Paul. It's almost like what he just said is completely meaningless when you realize that while it may not be, quote, unrealistic to be perfect in that area, being perfect in that area does absolutely nothing to improve your own life or the lives around you. All that does is convince you that you're a better person than other people who simply do not care enough to even attempt to censor themselves in pointless scenarios.
I like that.
Yeah.
The Bible calls us up, and this is a kind of an area where some people have disagreement, but if you look at the Word, it calls us to be holy and to strive for holiness. So why wouldn't we in this area? If you find that, once a day I say a curse word,
I love to imagine that jump cut between
once a day I say
and
a curse word,
was Paul saying fuck by mistake and then dropping to his knees and praying for forgiveness. That would make this whole video worth it.
why don't we try and strive and say, God, help me. I don't want to say that anymore. And it comes to once a week and then once a month. And then,
Never!
is that unrealistic? Tell me what you guys think. I'd actually love to hear your all's thoughts. Is that something that you should strive to never do? Never say cuss words.
If you're doing it for a reason of wanting to better yourself personally through finding a more positive way to speak or a more positive outlook on life, and if that for you means replacing curse words with alternatives in your day-to-day life, sure, why not? While using said language does not have any specific negative effects, stopping the use of it also does not need to have any negative effects. However, if you're striving to restrain yourself from cursing simply because you're convinced that it makes your imaginary friends sad, then you're what's known as delusional. And when you're delusional and act in accordance with your delusions, you are almost inevitably doing more harm than good.
I think it is. I think I agree with Jacob.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
What about the people who are like, oh no, I only cuss when I'm like making a joke because it makes it funnier?
How dare you?
Because there are people like, even our friends and stuff, like, who I believe are strong believers and stuff, like, will be making a joke, and just a joke wise, they might say a curse word, and like, we all laugh, like, let's be real, we all laugh, like, but we probably would have laughed the same if they had not said that.
It's almost like the words themselves have no power at all, and the power only comes from the underlying context behind the words.
That makes me think of, people who just treat it very lighthearted. They maybe turn to scripture and say, well, the Bible says, to the pure, all things are pure. I've heard that one. So, it doesn't offend me. I'm saying it in a lighthearted way.
But then it could be lighthearted, and then eventually you could be like, you start using it not just in jokes, but in your day-to-day life, and then it's like, all of a sudden you're cussing all the time.
Oh, you are so right, Morgan. That definitely could happen, and that would just be so awful because... Wait, why would that be bad?
Like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death is one who deceives their neighbor and says, I was only joking. How many times do we hear, I was just joking. It was only a joke. We were joking.
Wow. You took this to a whole nother level of depth.
Intense.
Changing the subject does not translate to taking the subject to a whole new level of depth.
I think Jesus was funny,
Ooh.
but I don't think he was goofy. Think about it. I think he was funny, but I think he was also very serious and very perfect. I feel like all the goofy college crazy that's still in me prohibits me from going deeper.
There are Christians who cuss. It's just a fact. Some of our friends occasionally will jokingly cuss. It doesn't bother me that much.
I might jokingly cuss.
I have to be real with you guys. We were kind of jokingly saying some stuff. I jokingly dropped a cuss word a week ago.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
It has been 1 week since my last comical use of a cuss word, but I really truly believe that I'm getting better, and maybe I'll relapse again someday, but I think that I have built up the willpower to always get back up on the horse in times of tribulation. Someday, I will be comic cuss-free for the rest of my life.
But I'm wondering, hey, come on, bring it back in, rope it in. I'm wondering, what would we say to solid believers who cuss sometimes?
I would say, you know what? That's between you and the Lord.
Which roughly translates to, I think less of you as a Christian and as a human being because you frequently curse. However, I can't say that without looking like a huge dick. So instead of that, I'll leave you to wallow in your guilt whenever you stand in front of the Lord while personally maintaining my distance from your dirty, sinful ways.
I'd say same thing. I mean, just pray on it. Like, are you feeling convicted? If you feel any type of guilt/conviction, then cut it out.
If you're feeling any kind of guilt about something that you're doing, the most important thing to do is to ask yourself why you're feeling that guilt. Is what you're doing having a negative impact on you or the people around you? If so, it may be something that's worth looking into further. However, if you're feeling guilty about something that's causing nobody any harm whatsoever, then you're likely feeling that way due to unreasoned indoctrination, convincing you from a young age that certain behaviors are objectively bad, despite having no negative effects on anybody.
But if it becomes a thing where it starts to drag my fiance down,
Yeah.
or my future children,
Yeah.
that's going to be a big issue to me.
I like that answer. And I gotta admit, when I dropped the S word about a week ago, I dropped it and I was like, I was laughing about it. Everyone was dying laughing how funny it was. I did feel a little bit of conviction afterwards.
Once again, if you feel guilty over something that you've done that caused no negativity to anybody, especially if rather than negativity it brought joy to yourself and others, you are likely a victim of indoctrination and need to attempt to critically analyze that aspect of your life to look past that indoctrination.
So, I'm probably not gonna do it anymore.
It's good that I live in Lexington now. Because if I hear you cuss, I'll just say, that's a neck.
Ah! Alright, like you mean that's enough.
Yeah, like, that's a neck.
Ah! But overall though, if you notice that you're cussing on the reg, examine what's going on there. You heard where we're at, what we think about cussing and Christians cussing and stuff.
And
but
negative thoughts.
we'd love to hear what you think because I personally don't think it's a real black and white answer. If you agree with us, then give us a thumbs up and be like, I think that you guys were on it. But if you disagree, just let us know why because I wanna learn what you guys think.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've made it rather clear what I think regarding this matter. If you're an adult who's afraid of certain words, regardless of context, simply because you're self-conscious about what the big man in the sky thinks, you're either suffering from the effects of childhood indoctrination or you simply lack the maturity to function in society. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like and a comment down below telling me about your experience with mature language and how your deconversion affected the way you view its use. If you managed to survive this whole video, include the word mother trucker in your comments so I can see that you survived. If you're interested in joining my new Discord server, allowing you to directly suggest video ideas to me, as well as getting to talk to other people who watch my videos, a link to it can be found in the description down below. Thank you all very much for watching, and as always, have a blessed day, fellow heathens.